For an international audience, could you explain your channel's reach, influence, and editorial mission, and what role it's playing in informing the public in these politically tumultuous times?
Well, Imedi TV is the largest, by far the largest TV station in Georgia. We have a 20-year history. We started about 21, 22 years ago. We today, it varies, but I would say that on average, we are 3.5, 4 times larger than the next TV station. And if you take all TV stations in Georgia that broadcast political developments, news, and are kind of full-service TV stations, very often we are larger, more people view us than all the other channels together. And so in that sense, Imedi is an overwhelming force in the Georgian TV environment. I think it's also quite important for you to know that in 2007, during the previous government, Imedi has been taken off the air by the government, has been ransacked. Our equipment was, this building has been ransacked, the equipment was smashed, and for the next 4 years, it was controlled by the government, and we only returned it after that government, who is now main opposition force in the country, lost the elections. Then we were able to return Imedi and resume private ownership of Imedi.
And would you say you have like a specific editorial mission, or?
I'm a business person, and I'm not a journalist. I was an owner of Imedi. I was involved with Imedi on the board for many years, but it was because at that time Imedi's owner wanted me to help him financially, so I was kind of managing Imedi from the financial standpoint. So I understand Imedi quite well, and as I said, I've been involved from its inception. But I never ever wanted or dreamt to be owner of Imedi. It just so happened that when that person passed away and then his family inherited, at some point the family almost insisted that I purchase Imedi from them, which because it was very difficult to find a suitable person who they could hand Imedi over and be comfortable that it's not going to be misused. So for me, when it came in, I started thinking a lot what I'm gonna do with it, how I'm gonna manage it. It's quite a difficult question, which still resonates with me. And I decided that I would be involved minimally if it's possible. Sometimes it's more possible, more doable than at some other times. And if anything, this TV station would be there to protect free speech in the country, free media in the country, so it would never happen what happened in 2007. So that those people never come back, and they are never going to be, no one's going to be allowed to shut down media, free media in this country. Because I personally am a very staunch believer that as long as you have free speech and free media that can broadcast that free speech, then many other very positive developments for the country follow. I can talk about it a lot, but at this point I would just end at that.
Speaking of which, there's been increasing polarization in Georgia's media space. What do you think contributed to this divide, and how is your channel trying to navigate it?
Well, I'm not sure that it has been increasing polarization. It was always polarized, and as I told you, in 2007, it got to the point when government decided to shut down not only Imedi, but all the other independent channels as well, and newspapers and internet broadcasts. Polarization is always there. I'm saying this often, that all Georgian TV stations are loss-making. We're a small country of 3.8 million people, and we broadcast and program our programming in Georgian. Only 5 million people in the world speak Georgian. So it's, and with this many channels, because we have very free media environment, you can open TV channel without a license. You don't need the license. You can just apply and not even wait until 7 or 10 years. You can start 10 days, I'm sorry, 7 or 10 days, you can start broadcasting. So we have many different TV stations. It's just not enough. The advertising for the small country, just not enough to cover our costs. And so all the TV stations are loss-making in Georgia, which also means that people are spending money on these TV stations for some other reasons. They are not really perceived as businesses, because if a TV station loses money for 20 years, it's not business anymore. So there's something else. And what is something else? And something else is to participate in to have a political voice. Every every party in Georgia has its own TV station. Every political party has its own TV station. We are independent. I'm not a politician. I'm a business person, but I'm also obviously that Imedi has leanings, as I said, against the previous government because we had very bad experience with them and we've been shut down for many years.
And speaking of which, a lot of critics of Imedi TV say that the channel is closely associated with the Georgian Dream party. Would you say that's true?
What I would say is, and also continuing with the previous theme, is that polarization was always there, but it has increased since the Ukraine war, because in general, Ukraine war, we are right next in the neighborhood. We are right in the neighborhood of where this terrible thing is happening. And so that has actually had a very negative effect on polarization. It has increased since 2022. I'm not affiliated. The Imedi channel is privately owned. I'm one of the owners of Imedi. I'm a chairman of the board of Imedi. And while we are sympathetic to the ruling party, we are not affiliated in any way or in any way subjected to their views, or we are independent. As I said, there are two political forces in the country, at least that's what I believe. This is the previous government and the current ruling party, and we are not at all towards the previous government, who not only ransacked our TV station, but arrested about 10% of the Georgian population, 300,000 people, arrested many people around me. I'm a U.S. citizen, so they couldn't arrest me, but they did arrest many people around me. They were taking our businesses away. So for me, they are unacceptable to come back and rule this country. So if Imedi has any kind of editorial policy, it is to make sure that whatever happened in Georgia in between 2004 and 2012 never happens again.
So we've been watching some of Imedi TV's coverage, and there are some terms used like foreign influence and deep state, and critics say that's straight out of a Russian playbook or very similar to Russian narrative. What would you say to that? Look,
again, I don't know exactly what broadcast or the Imedi narrative you refer to. I'm not very much involved in the editorial work of Imedi. If I am, usually post factum, if I don't like something, and then I may ask questions. I doubt that it is Imedis' terminology. I believe that many people in Georgia are using those terms, and Imedi, while interviewing someone, could also use that or ask the questions, but this is not what is Imedis' terminology. And while you said that this is the kind of Russian playbook, I'm not sure if you are listening to Donald Trump or Elon Musk or J.D. Vance or people around them, but they are also using much of this terminology, whether you like it or not. So we are living in a very polarized world, not only in Georgia, but also outside of Georgia. That terminology is being used in the West as well. And so if Imedi repeats it, so it could be, but I cannot really pinpoint in any particular point. Imedi tries to convey what's going on in the country. We try, especially when it's so difficult and so polarized, we are trying to show what people are saying, what they are doing, instead of really instilling what Imedi's view of the world is.
Yeah. These are some narratives that the Georgian Dream Party, for example, has been spreading, at least from October onwards. Surely if the channel's echoing those narratives, or as you say, it's not affiliated with the party, but
the channel has Georgian Dream members quite frequently, and so yes, if they are using the terminology, you're going to hear this terminology from Imedi, because they are just here and they are speaking and they are using it. We are just showing whatever they are saying.
And what's your view on the recent protests?
By the way, also opposition is using this terminology. They may use it completely from different perspective, but this terminology is being used by both sides.
And what's your view on the recent protests and the public's perception of government accountability?
Well, it's a complicated question. The Georgian Dream has been elected by the Georgian people, and they won more than 10 different elections since 2012 when they came into power. And it's really like one fundamental group against them, the previous government in their different reincarnations. But Georgian Dream has won every single election, be it the national election, be it the presidential election, or be it local elections. And so in that sense, until the last election in 2024, Georgian Dream was elected by the Georgian people, and they were fully within their rights to do whatever the Georgian law allows them to do as a majority part of the Georgian parliament. They can nominate prime minister and so on and so forth. And so since 2022, again, when the war started in Ukraine, that's when this all thing I believe erupted here. There have been all sorts of demonstrations, basically asking for their for Georgian Dream to step down, and for the opposition forces or some forces around the opposition to resume the power. Some of these demonstrations have been quite forceful and violent, and I believe that is wrong, because I believe Georgian people have elected Georgian Dream, and if that is the case, then the democracy works so that they are allowed to run the country. And so you may not like something. I don't like many things that Georgian Dream does, but it doesn't mean that I have a right to demand that against Georgian people's wishes, that they actually recuse the power and give it to someone else. And I also believe that in 2024, Georgian Dream was re-elected, and also it's quite important to show that Georgian Dream won by, I believe, around 54%. But if you take the Georgian Dream had 54%, the next party, I believe, had like 15 or 16 or something like that. So it's like overwhelming majority picked. If they picked one party, that was the Georgian Dream. Not only they were more than half, but they were like 4 or 5 times larger than the votes that the next party got. So I absolutely believe that they won elections. You may argue whether everything in that election was perfect or not, but it's definitely, there were all sorts of different allegations, but none of them have been proven. And actually it's quite easy to disprove every single one of them, I believe. So in that sense, I think that Georgian people, by and large, accept that Georgian Dream has won elections. And then we're in the same situation. If Georgian Dream won election, they should be allowed to govern the country. And if there's a very violent demonstrations, we had very violent demonstrations here, where when police was thrown with Molotov cocktails, when point blank range, all sorts of firecrackers were shot at them. And I mean, I'm not sure if you've seen this, but we can provide the footage if you want to. And the police reacted. I think there was definitely violence from the protesters. There could have been overreaching of their power by the police. We actually tried to cover that, both sides. We deplore violence here in Imedi. We've seen lots of violence against Imedi journalists, not during the previous government, but also now. Even in during those days when there was very violent protests, the protesters were also violent against our TV station because they don't like us. And so there were certain arrests made, and after a few arrests have been made, all this subsided. So that's where we are. Now they can go out. They are every night there are about 250, 500,000 protesters. Maybe some bigger dates gathering and protesting, and no one is touching them, and they're fully within their right to protest, and they should be protected. And I think there were several days, maybe several week period when this was like very violent period, but for absolute vast majority of it's going now more than 100 days, I believe, it has been peaceful, and it's not. I don't believe that it's in police. It is police goal to disperse them, because other than those the narrow time frame, there haven't been really violent clashes between the two sides.
Oh, you said the protesters don't like you, the channel. Why?
Because they are the opposition. This is the opposition, and as I said, our channel is against the opposition in the sense that these are the national movement, the previous government, who ransacked us, beat us up, arrested us, and so we don't want them to come back. We don't want them. We know what they're going to do if they come back. Even now, they are. I told you that we are almost half of the Georgian TV ratings, and they are running around the world and trying to shut us down without being in power. They are going out, and they would go to Netherlands and go to the Dutch Parliament, or England and go to the UK Parliament. They went to Italy a couple of days ago, your homeland, and someone in the Parliament spoke about me personally, that I should be sanctioned. And the only reason they want to sanction me is because they hope that if they somehow sanction me, they would then silence this TV station. And I'm saying that, look, they're not even in power, and they want to silence the largest, by far the largest TV station in the country. Imagine what would happen if they came into the power again, once again. So from that, it's a long answer, but they don't like me because they don't want this channel to be on. They want to silence this channel, unfortunately. And as I told you, a vast majority of Georgian people are against it because they are watching us.
And you think that most of the people protesting out in the streets are people against the Georgian Dream Party, not people who, for example, would like to be part of Europe or the EU, and now that process has been
stalled? I would like to be part of EU. I mean, there are very few people in this country that benefit as much as I would personally, because I'm owner of various business assets, and I also invested outside of Georgia. I invested in the countries that eventually became members of the EU, and I know how much the values of our assets increased when we went into EU. I'm very much pro-EU. Where I'm more cautious is what kind of stance we should take vis-a-vis Ukrainian war. When Georgia has fought Russia in 2008, no one came to our rescue. We lost territories, we lost people, and many people here don't want to repeat that. I mean, often you hear this one-sided EU versus EU, and I'm being portrayed as kind of anti-EU. I'm a U.S. citizen. I spent most of half of my life in the West, and I very much appreciate the values that I got out of there, the education and many other things, freedoms and so on and so forth. But it's very nuanced here. We are also in the middle of the major war, and so when often things are just disguised in the simple messages, pro-EU or anti-EU, it could be much more complicated. I am pro-EU. This channel is pro-EU, on the record and in spirit. But we are very careful. We don't want a repeat of 2008 here. We don't want us to stay in front of Russia and face military conflict with Russia. And vast majority of Georgia wants peaceful Georgia, and that's the most important thing. Peaceful Georgia is more important than many other things right now.
Several journalists and outlets have reported facing threats, legal, physical threats, and intimidation. How do you think the government is protecting freedom of speech and freedom of press here?
Government is protecting freedom of speech and freedom of press by the fact that it's extremely easy to open up a TV station or newspaper and do whatever you want to. There was, I'm not sure how much you know about Georgia, but about a year and a half ago, they introduced this transparency law, which was dubbed immediately as Russian law, and all opposition media was saying that this was introduced so that before the elections of 2024, none of them would be allowed to operate. And I knew immediately that that's impossible, because no law here can operate the same way that it can operate in some kind of a dictatorial country, because we have such free media. And this is true. None of them have been closed down. They are all operating. None of the non-governmental organizations have been shut down against all the warnings that this law will be misused before October 2024. Now we are already in May 2025, and they are still at large, and they are still operating, and it's wonderful. You know, I may not like them as TV stations, as my competitors, or messages they are broadcasting, but if I saw that they are under threat of being shut down, I'll be the first one to go out and protect them in any way I can, of course legally. Because that is very important, that we have independent voices, whether it's opposition or pro-government, it doesn't matter. There should be opposition, there should be independent voices that are allowed to broadcast in Georgia. This is extremely important. Legally, I don't know what you're referring to, because there was only one legal case I can remember when ex-owner of one of the TV channels and also general director, CEO, was arrested, and he went to Strasbourg, and Strasbourg and the Georgian government won. So Strasbourg Court of Human Rights said the Georgian government was within its right and they did the right thing. So I don't know what other legal cases you're referring to, but if you tell me the particular one.
Like the Farah law, or the foreign agency.
Again, I started with that. that law, many countries have that law, both democratic and some non-democratic. And as I'm saying, law could be used in many different ways. The same like knife or scissors could be used for something positive or something negative. I always was of the impression that this law would never be used against media and could not be used. As long as we have this kind of free media environment in Georgia, it would be impossible, even if the government wanted to. And I think the best proof of that is that law has been now in place for a while, and you cannot name one single TV station or newspaper or any media outlet or non-governmental organization that has been actually shut down or attacked. So yes, we have that law. So what? So does U.S.
Technically, it's going to come into place now at the end of the month, on June 1st.
That is not true. The law has been in place before the elections. That's why they were saying before the October elections. That's why they were always saying that the law was introduced so that by October elections last year there would not be any independent media outlet. That was how they were selling this to the West. You would turn CNN, The Economist, and this was basically said this is terrible. They are going to shut us down before the election. Now it has been already 8 months after the election, and they are all at large and broadcasting. I absolutely hope that this will continue forever. That we are going to have opposition TV stations, and if you want to open a TV station, you should be allowed to do it, like you're allowed to do it now.
Yeah, I think it's more probably less TV channels and more independent media. Some of which I've spoken with, and the journalists there have told me that they might have to shut down because they rely on foreign grants.
Again, when they shut down, then you have to ask me this question, because they've been saying that for the last 2 years. When the first idea came, this transparency law first was introduced, and then it was actually rescinded, and then it was introduced. For several years now, this is going on. And for all this time, they are saying that they'll be shut down. When they are shut down, then you ask me this question, and I'll tell you. It will be terrible if they are. But so far, none of them are. Even people who are telling you they will be, they're not. They are still broadcasting. Not even one case you can tell me. If you can, maybe I don't know something. But there's not even one single case when someone was shut down.
And my last question is about Zia Amagobalis' case. The journalist.
How does that relate to anything to do with media?
Well, she's a journalist, and they're saying she's a prisoner of conscience because she's a journalist.
If she was a hairdresser and did the same what she did, then it will be Georgia government against the hairdressers. She's a journalist, but she went in the broad daylight, specifically so that everyone sees, and hit the head of the police in the face. It doesn't matter whether you're a journalist, a football player, or a hairdresser. You don't do that. If you do that, then you have to face the justice. But my advice to Ms. Amagobalis is go to Strasbourg Court of Human Rights. If she thinks that she is there because she's a journalist, and if she's in prison, that will be expedited hearing. And let her go. There's lots of money slushing around for her lawyers. Let her go to Strasbourg Court of Human Rights if she thinks that that's why she's there. But she's not going.
But do you face 7 years for slapping a police officer?
Look, I cannot tell you that. I'm not a lawyer, and I cannot tell you, and I'm not even sure that she was facing 7 years, whether that's true or not. It could be. But we have to allow a justice system to run its course, and then we would know what she really got. And she always, even now, she has the option to go to Strasbourg Court of Human Rights. Thank God that Georgia adheres to its principles. When we signed up to be member of that environment of that court and member of that court, she should go there, and then we would know whether the Georgian government is doing the right thing or not. But she's not going for some reason, and they know that works because in previous cases 4 times they did. Mr. President Saakashvili went to Strasbourg Court of Human Rights. Head of one of his parties, Mr. Melia, went there. Mr. Guaramia that I mentioned, and now the 4th person, I just forgot the name. All 4 cases, only 4 times they did. All 4 cases, Georgian government won. That they did right. That's why I don't buy this stuff that for some reason Georgian legal system is this persecutorial one. Moreover, if you look at the NDI, National Democratic Institute's surveys, if you look at top 10 issues that bother us or are important for Georgian population, Georgian court is not among the top 20, which means that Georgian courts don't bother people, which also means that they're fairly okay. They may be better, maybe they should be better, but the fact that This is not, doesn't even come out in the questionnaire when they are asking. Most of the people, like less than, I believe, like 1% or something, said that this is important issue for them, which means that court is not important issue for them, which means that it more or less works.
Okay, that was my last question, unless, and this is the very last question, you want to add something or want to say something we didn't cover in these questions.
I would like to say that there has been, unfortunately, very lopsided coverage of Georgia from the outside. It is a wonderful country. We've done an amazing job, I think, on many fronts. We are, if you look at the, I believe it was Atlantic House's survey, we were on the democracy index. We were the only green country actually in the neighborhood. We've done extremely well on the corruption index. These are all run by large Western organizations. These surveys. We are, I think, number 6 on ease of doing business. We are one of the top 10. I think top 10 in transparency of our budgeting. The country is doing very well. We are becoming wealthier. I believe that we are quite democratic, and it's really unfortunate that very lopsided and very different view. We have incredible media freedom. As I told you, you can in 10 days have your own TV station if you wanted to in Georgia. Welcome. But very lopsided story is going outside of Georgia, and I think that is very bad for this country, which I believe that the reality is quite starkly different. It also could be fault of the Georgian Dream, who is not doing good job of reaching outside. But that's and spreading the alternative, what's going on here, because very much alternative reality is being pushed by, I don't know, different forces for outside of Georgia, and maybe also Imedi, because we are all inward focused, and I believe that our government is inward focused. I think they're doing good job on some part. Maybe they should be doing better job on some other parts, but they're definitely not preoccupied of bringing Georgian story to outsiders. But the other side is, and that's why this is very lopsided, has been so far very lopsided coverage of Georgian affairs, if you look from the outside. I think that Georgia came under large pressure to be more actively involved in the Russia-Ukrainian conflict, and the Georgian Dream government, I think, was very cautious about that, and I do believe that all this has changed from 2022. Before, if you look at the coverage, there was no coverage whatsoever. Then we came under sharp focus after the war started, and I believe the Georgian government came under pressure to be more actively involved. I mean, we were asked to send volunteers. The Ukrainian government was participating in some of the demonstrations. Mr. Zelensky himself asking for overthrow of the government. And I can understand they're fighting, they're in a war, and they wanted Georgia to be out there helping. But we did not want to be involved in the war. The government decided that it wasn't time and wasn't for us. We are not protected by NATO. We are not NATO members. So we had dismal experience in 2008, and I believe that actually contributed a great deal, because all of a sudden a big chunk of the West got dissatisfied with Georgia, got dissatisfied with the decision that the Georgian government took. I personally think that was one of the main factors in this, and that's why I absolutely hope for this war to end soon. People shouldn't be dying. Ukraine should not be destroyed, and I believe that once this war ends, and hopefully soon, then this pressure of Georgia would also ease a little bit. Or pressure on Georgia would ease a little bit. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.